Deputy Maureen O'Sullivan.
Thank you. Minister, the question relates to a recent report after a 4-year study which indicates that badgers do not seek out cattle and they actually actively avoid them. So in that case, is there not a good justifiable reason now to suspend the culling of badgers?
Thank you.
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Deputy, for raising this issue. You and I have spoken about badgers many times, and I know where you're coming from on it. The badger removal strategy, which has been part of our TB eradication programme for some years, has been developed in response to research which has demonstrated that the eradication of the disease in cattle is not a practical proposition until the reservoir of infection in badgers, with which it has been found they share localised TB strains, is addressed. This is based on a number of studies which showed that badger removal had a significant beneficial impact on the risk of future breakouts, with areas where badgers were not removed being some 14 times at greater risk than in areas where badgers were removed. It is also notable that there has been a significant improvement in the disease situation in Ireland, both in the cattle and badger population, since the badger removal programme was put on a more structured footing in 2004. The incidence of TB in cattle has fallen by almost 40% since 2008 and is currently at record low levels. It is particularly interesting that the incidence of TB in Northern Ireland, where badger removal was not prioritised, is approximately twice as high as this side of the border. The study referred to by the Deputy is ongoing and is designed to find out how exactly the disease transmission between badgers and cattle takes place, with a view to building up a comprehensive picture of badger movements and helping to design a viable vaccination programme for badgers, which is my department's preferred way of addressing the issue, if we can make it work. The fact that badgers tend to avoid buildings does not mean that they don't transmit disease to cattle. The position is that badgers can transmit to cattle via faeces, urine, and strain typing has shown that badgers and cattle share the same strain of TB, which is prevalent in the locality. Apart from this, research has shown that, as I've stated above, the removal of badgers from a locality has resulted in a significant reduction of the instances of TB. My department endeavours to ensure that the badger culling programme takes place as humanely as possible. The restraints used in the capture of badgers are approved by Section 34 of the 1976 Wildlife Act, and research conducted within UCD has shown that damage or injury to captured badgers is minimal and is lower than with other capture methodologies. In summary, the badger removal programme is based on research, is conducted humanely, and only to the extent where it has been found to assist in reducing disease levels, and through the evidence of the sustained reductions in disease levels, both in cattle and badgers, has demonstrated its effectiveness. And I'm confident that it can be replaced by a badger vaccination programme in due course.
Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, the sooner the better. But I do need to do that on the basis of science.
Deputy O'Sullivan.
Right, okay. I want to suggest that there could be other reasons for the improvement in the reduction of levels of bovine TB, apart from the cull of the badgers. Everybody wants bovine-free cattle herd. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But it was interesting to read this report. It was carried out by your own department, by Trinity College and by the National Parks and Wildlife Service, going on over 4 years. And what they discovered is that badgers actively avoid areas where there are cattle, whether this is in a yard or whether this is out in the wild. And they have been observed that on their nightly wanderings, if they come into a field where there are cattle, that they will divert somewhere else. In the meantime, 80% of the badgers being culled are perfectly healthy animals, and we do know that even though there's licences to shoot them, that they are culled in most horrific circumstances. And we've seen badgers caught in the trap, and they're shot in that trap. We've seen poison laid. There has been slurry left in some of these traps in order to further intensify the cruelty of this. And this is being carried out with licences that are given by your department. I do think there's a need for a more holistic approach towards TB, rather than blaming the badger for everything. And I would hope that this report, because it is giving very interesting findings, that you can look at that and see more of an impetus for that vaccine.
Minister.
Well, first of all, we will look at the report, okay? And I think it would be dishonest of me to say that I don't think the badger targeted cull programme, which is being done in as humane a way as we can do it, and if there's other suggestions that we, as to how we could do it better, well, we would happily take that on board. But like to suggest that it's not working, I think would be wrong. This has been a hugely successful programme where we have virtually halved TB in Ireland. We have less TB in Ireland now than at any time since 1954, which is when records began. In the UK, they have not had success in reducing the incidence of TB, and I would say partly because they haven't been able to take the same approach towards a targeted culling programme where they know there's a localised TB problem, an outbreak. So I want to move to a vaccination programme where we actually vaccinate badgers against TB, and we will do that when we feel we can do it and maintain the approach that we have at the moment, which is driving down TB numbers.
Thank you.
But I don't think we can do that purely on animal welfare grounds without having a negative consequence for TB spread. But as soon as we feel we can do that, we will do it. But I'll happily look at the report. And by the way, if you have examples whereby badgers are being trapped inappropriately, I'd like to hear about it.
Thank you.
Because we do have an approach and an insistence that actually the way in which traps are set needs to be done in as humane a way as possible. But the idea that badgers actively avoid cattle because they're shy animals, which they are, and therefore there's no connection between the two, I don't think really stacks up when you look at how it's actually spread through urine and faeces and so on.
I do think there has to be other reasons why there has been a reduction in the levels of bovine TB. And I mean, this cull of the badgers has been called, slaughter masquerading as science. But as I'm on my feet, there was another aspect recently, a report of a farmer who was giving a presentation at the Public Accounts Committee in which he acknowledged that he had been responsible, with an official from your department, of inhumanely slaughtering 4,000 pigs. So these are the things that are going on, and we had lots of discussion on the animal welfare bill, and there was so much expected of that, and it has gone so far. So it's disappointing when inhumane treatments still continue.
Can I say it's also inhumane? It's also inhumane that we have to slaughter cattle because they have TB when we know that we can get the incidence of TB down. So that's no more humane. Like, what's humane for me is to get TB out of the herd. That's what we're trying to do. And to get it out of the badger population too, so that we don't have to target cattle and badgers. We have other questions in relation to deer and Wicklow, for example. Are they spreading TB? And if they are, how can we manage that in a practical way? Can we have a targeted humane cull to try and deal with killing off a disease that has bedeviled Irish agriculture for 50 years? Right?
Thank you.
So we want to stop killing animals because they're carrying or spreading TB. And the way to do that is to eradicate TB. And that is what we're trying to do. And I think that's in the welfare interests of animals as well as obviously in a farming industry.
Thank you. That completes questions for today.